The perception of our reality depends on the brain's ability to receive and integrate sensory information from the environment. Sensory receptors in our body detect stimuli from the environment. These receptors are specialized for different senses. So for example, photoreceptors in the eyes can detect vision, receptors in the skin can detect touch, and others in the nose and taste buds can detect smell and taste. Sensory receptors can convert the physical energy from stimuli into electrical signals. So for example, photoreceptors in the eyes can convert light into electrical impulses. These electrical signals are then transmitted to the brain via sensory neurons. The brain interprets the sensory information based on past experiences, current context, and future expectations. So for example, the brain can integrate visual and auditory information to understand that a barking sound is coming from the dog that you see. This interpretation happens almost instantaneously and allows us to make sense of the world around us. How we perceive the environment around us is heavily dependent on the amount of attention we pay to it. Attention is essential for efficient sensory processing and adaptive behavior. It allows us to navigate the complex sensory landscape and to respond appropriately to the demands of our environment. So consider yourself driving a car. When you're paying attention to the road, your brain has to prioritize visual information about traffic signals, road conditions, and other vehicles. This focused attention helps you to respond quickly to changes, such as a pedestrian crossing the street in front of you. Simultaneously, your brain filters out less relevant stimuli, such as the sound of the radio or the sensation of the steering wheel. This happens as attention influences sensory processing at various levels, from the early sensation of stimuli to the more complex processing that happens. This modulation involves increasing the neural activity in regions of the brain that are responsible for processing the attended stimuli, while decreasing activity related to unattended stimuli. Understanding optical illusions can offer insights into how we perceive reality. Optical illusions occur when our brain interprets visual information in a way that differs from reality. The study of illusions can be windows into the inner workings of our brains, offering valuable insights into how we process visual information. Illusions can give rise to the perception of something that isn't actually there, such as the Canizza triangle illusion, where three Pac-Man-like wedges create the perception of a triangle, even though the edges aren't drawn. Due to feedback loops in sensory processing, the brain connects the dots between the corners of the wedges. This is an example of the brain making inferences based on incomplete information. Other illusions play with our perception of color, size, and shape. So for example, a foggy room might change the perception of depth of space. Another example is the blue, black, or white gold dress which broke the internet. Here, individual differences in how we perceive color in a lit contextual background likely contribute to this illusion. Depending on what sunlit context your brain is perceiving this image, either bright sunlight or dusk, people either discount the blue light, in which case they end up seeing white and gold, or they discount the gold light, in which case they end up seeing the dress as blue and black. So far, we have been talking about perception, but in my current research, I study interoception. So instead of looking at the external environment, we try to understand how our brains perceive internal cues. An example of this would be your stomach growling when you're hungry. It turns out that similar to how we have sensory receptors which detect external stimuli, we also have sensory receptors to detect internal stimuli. These provide feedback about the current state of our body, such as hunger, which can then motivate our behaviors towards certain outcomes, such as food seeking. This perception of our internal environment is thus crucial for interacting with the external environment.